There are some people who seem to have everything: a beautiful house, money in the bank, a family around them, and still, somehow, they are never satisfied. And then there are people who have almost nothing, yet somehow, they wake up every morning with a smile. This is the story of one such woman. Her name was Martha Bell. She lived alone in a tiny cottage at the far end of a quiet village where the road disappeared into the forest. She owned 2 dresses, one old wooden table, a cracked kettle, a small fireplace, and a chair that had been repaired so many times that Martha jokingly called it her ancient throne. She had no savings, no expensive jewelry, no large family waiting outside her door, but Martha had something far more unusual. She had a strange habit of finding something good in almost everything that happened to her. And sometimes, that habit made the people around her think she was a little foolish. Every morning, Martha opened her curtains before sunrise. She would look at the sky and say, "Well, let's see what kind of surprise today has prepared for me." One cold morning, she stepped outside carrying an empty basket. Her neighbor, Helen Parker, was standing near her gate trying to carry 2 heavy bags. "Martha," Helen called. Martha hurried toward her. "Good morning, Helen. Why do you look as though you've just fought a war?" Helen sighed. "Because I have. The children are hungry, the stove isn't working properly, my husband forgot to bring flour home, and I have 3 loads of laundry waiting." Martha laughed softly. "Well, that's quite a busy morning. What's so funny?" "Nothing. I'm just thinking how lucky you are." Helen stared at her. "Lucky?" "Yes. I've just listed everything that's gone wrong." Martha nodded. "And you've also told me that you have children, a husband, a house, food to cook, and clothes to wash." Helen opened her mouth, then closed it. Martha smiled. "Sometimes we count our troubles so carefully that we forget to count our blessings." Helen shook her head. "You always have an answer." "No," Martha replied. "I simply try to look at the same thing from another side." Then she picked up one of Helen's bags. "Come on. Let's get these inside." Winter was approaching, the mornings were becoming colder, and Martha knew she needed more firewood. So she took her old basket and walked toward the forest. The village slowly disappeared behind her. The sound of children's voices faded. The houses became smaller, and soon, there was nothing around her except trees, wind, and the occasional sound of a bird. Martha gathered several pieces of dry wood. She was about to return home when something caught her attention. It was sitting beside an old tree, a small black wooden chest. Martha stopped. She looked around. Nobody was there. She walked closer. The chest was old, but strangely well preserved. She touched the lid. Martha's eyes widened. Inside were dozens of beautiful old coins, gold coins. For several seconds, she simply stared. Then she whispered, "Oh my." She picked up one coin. It was heavy, real. Her heart began beating faster. For the first time in years, Martha imagined a completely different life. She could repair her roof, buy a proper stove, replace her broken windows, buy warm clothes, perhaps even move into a bigger house. She could stop worrying about every loaf of bread. Martha smiled. Then she noticed something underneath the coins, a small piece of paper. She pulled it out. There was only one sentence written on it. "What you choose to do with this will reveal what you already have inside you." Martha read it twice. What a strange thing to write. She looked at the gold again. For a moment, she thought about taking everything. Then she remembered the families in the village who were struggling. She remembered Helen. She remembered old Samuel, the carpenter, whose hands had become too weak to work long hours. She remembered the children who sometimes shared one loaf of bread between them. Martha sighed. I could certainly use this. Then she smiled. But perhaps I don't need all of it. She took a small handful of coins. She placed them in her pocket. Then she closed the chest and continued walking. Martha had barely walked 100 steps when she heard something strange. She stopped. The coins in her pocket felt different. She reached inside. Her eyes widened. The coins were gone. In their place was a small silver key. Martha stared at it. A key. She looked back toward the chest. It was gone too. Now there was only an empty patch of grass beneath the tree. Martha scratched her head. Well, she held the key toward the sunlight. I suppose this is what I get for taking only what I thought I needed. She continued home. On the way, she remembered an old abandoned shed behind her cottage. For years, she had wanted to repair it. When she reached home, she tried the key. It fit the shed's rusty lock. The door opened. Inside was a pile of dry firewood, more than enough to last through the winter. Martha stood there silently. Then she laughed. So that's what the key was for. She carried the wood inside. For once, she didn't ask why she hadn't received the gold. She simply thanked life for giving her something useful. A few days later, Martha was walking through the village when she saw something hanging outside a tailor's shop. A beautiful red winter coat. It was thick, warm, and almost new. Martha stopped to admire it. The tailor noticed her. You like it? Oh, very much. You should have it. Martha laughed. I couldn't afford it. The tailor shook his head. It's been sitting here for months. He took the coat from the display. Try it. Martha did. It fit perfectly. She looked at herself in the small mirror. For a moment, she hardly recognized the woman staring back at her. The tailor smiled. Keep it? Martha immediately shook her head. No, I can't take something that valuable. The tailor lowered his voice. My mother made it. Martha looked at him. She passed away last winter. I haven't been able to sell it. He placed the coat in Martha's hands. I think she'd rather see someone warm in it than see it hanging here. Martha's eyes became wet. She hugged the coat against her chest. Then I'll take very good care of it. And she did. But what Martha didn't know was that the coat would soon lead her to something much more important than warmth. One evening, Martha put her hand into the coat pocket. Her fingers touched paper. She pulled it out. It was an old letter. The handwriting was delicate. She read it carefully. It was from the tailor's mother. The letter said, if this coat ever belongs to someone else, I hope it keeps them warm on the days when they feel alone. Martha read the sentence several times. Then she folded the letter and placed it safely beside her bed. The next morning, she walked to the tailor's shop. She handed the letter back to him. He read it. His eyes filled with tears. Neither of them spoke for a while. Finally, he whispered, I thought I'd lost everything when she died. Martha gently touched his hand. Maybe you didn't lose everything. He looked at her. Maybe, Martha continued, you just hadn't found the right person to remind you what she left behind. Winter arrived. Snow covered the village. The wind became sharp. One night, Martha heard knocking. 3 slow knocks. She opened the door. A young girl stood outside. She was shivering. Please, the girl whispered. My father is sick. We haven't eaten since yesterday. Martha immediately brought her inside. She gave the girl warm soup, then bread. Then she placed another blanket around her shoulders. Where is your father? At the old mill. Martha didn't hesitate. She put on her red coat. She took a lantern and followed the girl through the snow. At the mill, she found the girl's father lying on the floor. He was weak with fever. Martha called the village doctor. Then she returned home and brought food. The family stayed in her cottage for several days. It was crowded, uncomfortable, and sometimes noisy, but Martha never complained. One morning, Helen came to visit. She looked around the cottage. "Martha, you've barely got enough room for yourself." Martha smiled. "That's true. Then why are you doing this?" Martha looked toward the sleeping child. "Because sometimes a small house can still have a very large heart." Spring finally arrived. The snow melted. The trees became green again. One morning, Martha walked outside and discovered something unusual. Someone had repaired her fence. Another person had fixed her broken window. There were vegetables growing in her garden, and beside her door was a pile of neatly cut firewood. Martha looked down the road. Helen was standing there. Samuel, the carpenter, was beside her. The tailor was there too, and behind them were several families from the village. Martha smiled. "What is all this?" Helen stepped forward. "You've spent years helping everyone." Martha shook her head. "I only did small things." Helen smiled. "Small things become big when enough people remember them." Samuel raised his hand. "We decided it was your turn." Martha looked around, her eyes filled with tears. For years, she had believed she was simply surviving. She had thought she was poor. She had thought she had very little to give. But standing there, surrounded by people she had helped, she finally understood. She had never been poor in the things that mattered. That evening, Martha sat in her old wooden chair, the same chair she had once called her ancient throne. Helen sat beside her. "Martha, yes? Do you really believe everything happens for a reason?" Martha thought about it. "No." Helen looked surprised. No, Martha said. "Sometimes bad things simply happen." She looked into the fire. "But I believe we get to decide what happens next." Helen remained silent. Martha continued. "You cannot always choose what life puts in your hands. Sometimes it gives you loss, sometimes disappointment, sometimes fear, and sometimes," she smiled, "it gives you something wonderful. But the important question is never simply what you receive. It is what you choose to do with it." Helen smiled. Martha picked up her cup of tea. "And that's why I've stopped asking whether I'm lucky." "Because," Martha looked around her little cottage, "because I've learned that luck isn't always something you find. Sometimes," she took a slow sip of tea, "sometimes you create it by the way you live." Years later, people in the village still remembered Martha Bell, not because she had discovered gold, not because she had become wealthy, and certainly not because she had lived an extraordinary life. They remembered her because she had mastered something far more difficult. She had learned how to remain grateful without having everything. She had learned how to smile without pretending that life was always easy. And most importantly, she had learned that disappointment does not always mean the end of something. Sometimes it is simply the beginning of a different path, a path you didn't plan, a path you didn't expect, but perhaps a path that leads you exactly where you needed to go. So the next time life gives you something you didn't ask for, don't immediately throw it away. Look again. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I build from this? Who can I become because of this? Because sometimes the thing we call bad luck is simply a blessing we haven't understood yet. And sometimes the greatest treasure isn't waiting somewhere in a chest. It is already inside you.